Summer of Chess comes to an end as 20 international grandmasters compete in St. Louis. USChessChamps.com presents the 3rd annual Fall Chess Classic.
Hello and welcome back to the 2019 Fall Chess Classic. As always, we are your hosts. My name is Caleb Denby. I'm joined by the wonderful Grandmaster Dennis Boros. And we will guide you through the games today. Well, it's an interesting round today. It's round 8, the penultimate round of the Fall Chess Classic. And
it's the most critical ones.
Yeah, one of the most critical ones. In the B group, things are still a total toss-up, but in the A group, things might be decided somewhat today. So why don't we actually take a look?
We're close, but we never know. You never know.
It's true.
Still
you never know.
One more round left after this one.
One more critical round as well. So why don't we take a look and see where we stand today in the A group standings. So Ray Robson won his previous round, bringing him to 5 wins in a row, which is just incredible on a scale of this level, where all these players.
This is incredible in this level.
Yeah, all these players are fantastic chess players, world-class chess players, and to win 5 games in a row against any of them is ridiculous.
And unheard of.
Yeah, so that put Ray 1.5 points ahead going into today. Jordan Van Forst is the only man that can catch him going forward with 4 points out of 7. And then there are a few players all on 50% still. Lenderman, Daros Swierz, Hrant Melkumian, and Ilya Smirin, all having very decent tournaments on a level score. Yes. And why don't we take a look at the B group now. Yasser Quesada Perez actually lost his round 7 game, which is incredible for the standings. He lost to Jack Stambuliak, who has now tied him for the lead once again.
And the nipping behind them is Aram Hakobian.
Yes, Aram Hakobian, definitely not one to count out. As well as Manuel Petrosian, actually the #1 rated player in the B group, still trying to make some gains and catch those leaders.
Some catch up.
Yeah, of course. Jack has had an up and down tournament. He won the first 3 rounds in a row, and then slowed down a little bit. Had a couple draws.
Wobbled a bit.
Yeah, actually lost a game as well, and then he bounced back quite nicely yesterday against the leader, Yasser Quesada Perez. Well, why don't we take a look at the tournament format for this event, as we see the players roaming around in the tournament hall up there. There are, of course, 2 10-player round robins. That's the A group and the B group. The time control is 90 minutes for the first 40 moves, and then at move 40, they are granted an additional 30 minutes on the clock to finish out the game. There is, of course, a 30-second increment for move 1, and there is also a draw rule in effect, which there might be some confusion on today. So there are no draw offers allowed before Black's 30th move. So players are not allowed to offer each other a draw. However, the game can still be drawn 2 different ways. One is via stalemate, and one is via 3-move repetition. Yes. They repeat 3 times, then a player can claim a draw.
Talking about 3-move repetitions.
Yes. So we already have some very interesting news today. Ray Robson, of course, the Group A leader, has already drawn his game in almost a record-breaking 13 moves against his opponent in the A group. And so there's some questions about how could this happen? How could Ray Robson draw Hrant Melkumian, 2 incredible players so quickly? And the reason for that is it's just good tournament strategy for Ray. Ray, of course, is ahead 1.5 points
Actually,
going
I
into
think
today.
we can still make a point showing what happened so people understand what...
Yeah, why don't we take a quick
let's just
look
pull it up.
at the actual board here.
So let's back it up to e4, e5, standard, e4, e5, classical, open Spanish stuff. And I mean, in fact, open Spanish would be if knight takes e4 would happen, but Melkumian plays the classical line. This is kind of a deviation from the Marshall, which is a big Armenian favorite,
Right.
led by their captain, Lev Oronyan.
Of course.
So d6 was played, c3, castle, d4, rook e8, knight g5. And here where white is putting pressure on the f7 pawn, black doesn't have time to play d5 because it would just open up too many things on the f7 pawn, so black has to go back, and repetition ensues.
Right.
3 times repetition ensues. And this is the form of accepting a draw. This is completely within the boundaries of the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, it really does make sense for Ray to draw this round. He saves his energy for what could be a critical game tomorrow against Jordan van Forest. Of course, the only player left who can still catch him.
And he also secures his position.
Yeah, if he draws today, which he has, now Jordan has to win, or else tomorrow there is absolutely no chance for Jordan to catch Ray Robson at all.
Yes.
So Ray, of course, sitting very nicely with his 6 out of 8 score. It just makes sense to do this
And
for him.
talking about Jordan van Forest.
Yes, so why don't we
which one will be the game of the day?
Of course. Well, we won't keep you in suspense too long.
Yes.
First of all, we'd like to thank you for joining us on social media as always. Get involved in the YouTube chat. We love reading your guys' questions. And hopefully we can answer them a little bit. And you're also welcome to join us on Twitter using the hashtag FallChessClassic. And lastly, you can follow the games for yourself live on uschesschamps.com. You can jump to any game you want then and take a look at wherever the exciting action takes you.
Yes.
Well, without further ado, why don't we take a look at the pairings for Group A. Alexander Lenneman is paired against Daros Swierz. Alexander Bortnik takes on Vorokobian. Alex Ipatov is facing Ilya Smirin. Ray Robson, of course, has drawn his game against Hrant Melkumian, and what was looking to be the key matchup of the day, but obviously that one has ended without too much bloodshed. And so then lastly, but not least, Vasif Durabaili takes on Jordan van Forest. Of course, Vasif was off to an early lead in the A group, but has since struggled quite badly to find his footing in this tournament in the latter half. Here we see Vasif hard at work on the board. And what can Jordan do today? He must win if he is to make a serious bid for winning this A group.
And it turns out that both players went out wanting some blood.
Yes, it makes sense for them. Makes sense.
Yes.
And so where do we stand right now on the board?
So right now, actually, black consolidated. As far as I can see, it's an extra pawn for black.
Yeah.
But it's an opposite colored bishop. Well, it's not an endgame yet. The queens are still on the board. But if Vasif to exchange it off, it would land straight into the endgame.
Yeah, and of course, that would be far closer to a draw, especially with this particular pawn structure.
To be honest, I still feel that black has some real winning chances as the queens are still on the board.
Right.
And the attack might get real.
Yeah.
As this bishop, even though will attack this pawn, let's say bishop b2, rook f7. Now don't forget the back rank tricks.
Checkmate's important.
This is an important thing to keep in mind. And the big deal here for white is, let's say, queen e3, so you have queen g1 at the end. And as I mentioned before, this wouldn't be such a great deal for Van Forest, as this is probably just going to be a draw because of the opposite colored bishops.
Right. You need the major pieces to make some threats against the king.
So because of that, bishop b7 makes sense. And the big question is this attack enough for black to win?
Right.
And to be honest, there are some weaknesses, back rank stuff. So I think that there's some chances for black to win, not that this is not defendable for white.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The nice thing about the extra pawn is it actually does offer a little bit of shelter for the black king
Yes.
as well. Of course, in opposite colored bishop positions, with other pieces on, the main factor to look out for is the kings.
Yes.
Because the bishops are operating on entirely different colors, that leaves a lot of squares weak in the enemy camp. For example, the g2 square for white is going to be his problem, whereas conversely, the g7 square would be the square for white to try to attack.
But it's
the dark squares
doubly
versus the light
blocked
squares.
because of the e5 pawn,
But
as
yeah.
you just mentioned.
This extra pawn does offer
Yes.
that extra little bit of shelter for the black king.
And I also wanted to mention, and this is typical in this structure, which, as you might not know, came from the Najdorf. The big issue here for white is that you want to create a Luft for the king eventually so you don't get back ranked. The problem is that you can't really go g3 because that's, for one, it's illegal. Two, it's not really desirable, as I might just build a deadly battery.
Of course.
Also, so h3 would be the natural move, but that invites some tactical tricks
Yeah,
for the future.
this pin on the g pawn
Yes.
can be problematic.
So what I'm saying here is that Forrest has a real chances of actually converting this advantage, but will he do it?
Well,
We
yeah.
don't know it yet.
I've got to say, I'm kind of rooting for Jordan here because it'll be very, very interesting to see him have to square off against Ray Robson tomorrow. Where
That
if he
would be-
wins, he could
if he
force a
wins.
playoff in the A group.
Yeah, and that would be a big playoff. So the
Yeah.
potential candidate for the tiebreaker is just about to make a move.
Yeah, and it looks like he's reaching for that rook. He chooses rook c7 rather than rook
Yes.
f7.
So he
So aiming for the second
goes-
rank.
So h3 was played instead of bishop b2, rook c7. So black is trying to jump at these white square weaknesses. And probably that's the other reason this is so comfortable for black. Because white has to tend for all of these pawns, and unfortunately for Durarbaili, it's all on white squares.
Right. Definitely not the easiest pawns to really keep track of here. So what does white do? Maybe I would like to play I don't know what I would like to play. Probably I should start with bishop b2, eyeing that e-pawn and asking you what you're going to do about it.
So I could attempt to exchange queens, but I'm not sure if that's great. On the other hand, I would get my rook on the second. Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks rather difficult.
But maybe bishop b7 with the same idea. And if the rook and the bishop would work together, that would
Yeah, that could work
could be dangerous.
quite nicely.
Let's say takes, rook takes c2. And combining the pawn pushes with this g2 weakness, I think this is real winning chances for black here.
Yeah, understandable. Well, why don't we take a quick look at the Group B pairings and see
Let's
where
do
we
that.
stand there. Yeah, of course, we'll stay on these players for a second longer as the tension there is palpable. Those
Yes.
players really playing for a lot right now. Aram Hakobian squares off against Yasser Quesada Perez. Vedic Gregorian takes on Aman Hambleton. Manuel Petrosian takes on Viktor Michalewski. Jack Stembuliak is having to fight a very powerful Denis Kadrich,
Okay.
who is playing quite well today. And lastly, in what is our key matchup of the day, Steven Zierk is playing Alexander Fear. And actually, I just got some breaking news in my ear. Alexander has actually won this game.
And he's coming
So-
down soon.
So why don't we get him in for an interview, and he can tell us about that game while you
Let's do that.
maybe introduce the opening.
Yes. So, a very nice win by Alexander Fear, bringing his King's Gambitier attitude to the game, and also some funky stuff in the opening. Now, a6 is not the usual line that you normally see. Normally, you would see d6, which would lead into the Najdorf per the game, Durarbaili Van Forest, which was bishop g5, e6, f4, queen b6, and this classical poison pawn variation. But Alexander Fear came up with a different way of playing. I've seen this move before, and I think the highest ranked players I've seen playing this one was Rapport and Morozevich, but the man himself is here to explain if it was just following footsteps, or you had original ideas prepared? Hello
Yeah,
there.
it's the accelerated Najdorf, no?
Ah, yes, accelerated. You're stopping bishop b5 forever.
And I avoid d4 also.
And d4, yes. Because this is the big trick. Now you can go e5 immediately, as far as I know. And you have this active plan. And Black is, I think, very comfortable. But obviously, everybody knows that you can't do that. But why?
Unfortunately.
So c3 was played. So did you expect this and then decided to go for a6, or this was some sort of a preparation?
Well, actually, I saw this line and started to see this line once I was going to play against Tivyakov with black. And he was always going c3. And I was going to play against c3 on move 2, a6, and try to transpose to this position. And okay, the lines with d5 and queen takes d5, I think they're a bit worse for black. But this gambit is interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way you played. Queen takes d5 is the other line, which is slightly worse.
Yeah.
But knight f6, and I like this idea because this feels a lot like you're playing this Portuguese variation.
Exactly.
So the Portuguese, if you don't know, is this one. Knight f6, d4 here, if I'm correct. Here and e6.
Yeah.
And then black has big compensation for the pawn.
And okay, in my case, the pawn is not going to d4 so easily, no?
Yeah, it's even worse for white.
That's what Tivyakov played, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, white has many ways to keep this pawn up. He can play like even without c4. If he plays d4, it's still like many ways to keep this pawn. After d4, cd4, he can go either queen a4 check or c4, both for winning a pawn.
Yeah. So this looks like a young variation. How young is this? I've seen a6, but I haven't seen many games with d5, knight f6.
No, it's not so serious, let's say.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
But
Since my normal openings were not working now.
okay. You figured this might work then.
And this line he plays cd4, knight d5. Strangely, I think it's the improved version for black of Panov. Because the bishop is open on c8 compared to the normal line.
And it's interesting
So
because
for
maybe
example, if bishop d3, bishop g4, I can play.
excuse me?
So for example, here if bishop d3, I can go bishop g4.
Uh-huh.
And it's nice for me. And if bishop c4, I have this bishop e6.
Yeah. So basically, you enter the Panov with a knight on d5.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, usually I'm supposed to have e6 instead of a6.
Yeah. So bishop c4 and bishop e6 was a very nice move.
Yeah.
Following the footsteps of the previous game between Durabaili and Robson, or at least very similar.
Well, kind of, yeah.
And actually, it's interesting because I've seen similar ideas with reversed colors, but wouldn't see this exact position where black would actually put the bishop on e6. So what's the point of bishop e6 here?
Yeah, and threatening win a piece, no?
Yeah. So
but
takes
for example, there is an interesting line here that is knight g5 directly. And knight takes c3, bishop takes e6.
Oh, nice.
Knight d1, bishop f7, king d7, bishop e6, and king c7.
And note king d6 is not too good because of bishop f4, and that king has some trouble. So king c7, and you start running.
Yeah, something like bishop f4, rook takes d1, and it's a mess, no?
Yeah. Yeah, who knows what's going on. But I kind of this plans. Although what if d5 happens? Knight b4 and d5. And yes, you give a check, but so what? Yeah, so this is a crazy position.
But okay, in last case I can go king e8 back and
and then it's just a perpetual.
Looks like this Queen's Gambit accepted, no?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, that repetition line. So bishop b3 was played, but after knight a5, you're taking a hold of this game.
Okay, there is a friend of mine, Eldebs, he played this position and won some easy game. And then I tried later against Van Camping in some rapid game, and it was okay. Because if I take on b3, black is just fine, no?
Yeah. You will, I guess, just go g6, bishop g7, castle, and what could be a big
also,
problem.
if bishop c2, I can do the same.
Just g6.
Yeah. And it's comfortable. Looks like a Tahash, no?
Yeah, it's a Tarosh that you're dreaming of. You're playing it with reversed colors, so that's the best thing on this planet. Yeah, so knight g5. Obviously, Zirk is trying to do something.
Yeah, I thought about
fighting for the edge.
Knight takes c3 and bishop d5 or bishop c4. But the problem of the bishop c4, he can change on queen f3.
Yeah, and
I have problems with my
can be annoying.
stuff. Bishop d5 is possible to play, but I didn't want to take on c3 if I'm not forced. No, so queen
Yeah.
d7 looks interesting.
Yeah.
And no, if he takes, I just take on e6
Yeah, you
and
just
on
take
b3,
it back and take on b3.
yeah.
So bishop c2, bishop g4. Did you consider taking and then moving the bishop?
Yeah, I thought about this too, but I thought like, yeah, I can probably go something like bishop a3 maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and
Just trying
didn't
to
want
do the
change,
same.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
should be okay too,
yeah.
but the bishop g4 is more provoking.
yeah, and f3, you know, that's very committing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's very likely the game will be decided.
Yeah.
Bishop f5. And yeah, the problem is, I guess, this knight and this bishop is misplaced.
Yeah, he can always go knight e4, but if I manage to complete with
Yeah.
e6, bishop e7
Yeah.
castle,
You
I'm
will be
totally
just
comfortable.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
So bishop f5, bishop e4 takes, h6, just asking some questions. And
Yeah, I
finally,
thought about e6 instead of queen b5, but I think in some lines the queen is misplaced on f5. It should be on d7 defending the pawns, no? So I thought maybe here he had rook b1 threatening queen a4 check. And this is a bit annoying because I have no good way to defend the pawn. So queen b5 I lose one tempo, but at least I've got castle for the moment.
Yeah. And I mean, the main problem with these pawn-off positions with white, that your structure is horrible.
Yeah.
So if you don't win before move 30, you're going to suffer the rest of the game.
Exactly. So for example, I'm not afraid of queen e2 or anything
Yeah,
like that.
because these endgames are just so much fun for black and it's suffering for white.
Yeah.
Especially that black is going to go rook c8, then c4 will never ever happen. So king f2, e6, bishop f4, you say no
Yeah,
check
yeah,
for
I
you.
I thought maybe he'll try something with rook e1 and d5, something more active, but I think I should be fine still. I saw some lines with rook e1, bishop e7, d5.
You can maybe go rook d8 too.
Rook d8, yes, it's also possible. But probably I would
Stop
play
him.
this.
Yeah.
But
Bishop
d5, and if he d5, knight d6 is coming, and king f8, and even like this is not that clear because knight
Yeah.
f5, bishop c5, and but I didn't want to like let so much play,
Yeah.
no? So maybe rook d8.
Yeah, white
maybe.
is dreaming for something
Yeah.
like this. So rook e1, rook d8 just is more comfortable.
But queen e2 looks a bit slow, I think. No, like in the
Oh.
game instead of rook
Yeah,
e1.
queen e2 is a little slow. Bishop e7, and you're not gonna let c4 happen. And after this is, I think it's kind of clear.
I think if I
that you're
play
slightly
castle and he goes c4, I'm still slightly better, but there is absolutely no reason to
Yeah.
let it.
Yeah. So b5 is the most ambitious move here. Knight d2, rook c8.
Yeah, and he did this nice trick. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, but it's a nice idea.
So a4, and you said thank you for the pawn.
Yeah, because if I castle, at least he got rid of one of the weaknesses, no?
Yeah, and if you can at least start exchanging the queen side, then there's some hope of surviving.
And the point is, after take queen e5, attacks g7 and
Yeah.
a5, no?
Yes. So this is very, very interesting.
And here knight b3, I think is a good move,
Yeah,
because
but
if
then-
queen g7, well, I can go knight c1, and if he takes on h8, king d7, and knight d3 is coming, and c3 is hanging.
Yeah, and you don't want to come back because
Yeah.
you'll get an unwelcome fork.
And if he just do rook takes c1 instead of queen h8, sacrificing the exchange, I think king d7 anyway, and the knight cannot go to e5, so
Yeah, there's no
that's
way.
the problem.
Yeah, and again, this f3 pawn,
Yeah.
the big issue. So anyways, let's go to the critical moment. And I guess the bishop f6 was missed by
Yeah, I think so.
Stephen.
And
and-
now he has no good way
Yeah.
to get the b3 pawn.
Yeah, and now you just defend everything. If you go here, I assume bishop e7, you just kick the queen out.
Yeah.
And after this, it's kind of like smooth sailing. You're up a
Yeah.
pawn.
Well, the end game required some calculations
Uh-huh.
later, but I was confident that it was winning because white has too many weaknesses here. Yeah. If like he had like instead a pawn on g2 instead of d4,
Yeah,
the position
there would be
much
some
harder.
chances. Yeah.
But like this.
So, yep, and this was a straightforward
Yeah, I only
ending.
need to be careful that when I change all the pawns for
Yeah.
him to not sacrifice the rook and take the pawn on a6. No?
Yeah.
That's why I had to make this kind of slow plan with king
Yes.
g6
Yeah,
and
this-
h6.
Yeah. So, A nice little win. You put the rook behind the pawn as thought.
But still, I cannot. He has this idea of rook c3 and rook c1. Rook c1, rook takes g2.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on time.
But you're just in time to bring the king closer and win. Very nice win.
Thank you.
So maybe that's why you're supposed to play the king's gambit. It gives you extra boost of confidence. And then luck returns to your side again.
Yeah, now that I come back, the tournament is finishing.
Yeah. Well, we should ask some extension for this. Let's add 3 more rounds.
Why not?
In any case, congratulations
Thank
and
you,
best
thank
of
you.
luck for the last round.
Thank you.
Yes, we might want to look at Stembuliak's game at the moment as drama's incoming, as Stembuliak seems to be in trouble. As Kadrich did the wardrobe gambit, changing from the purple hoodie for some more casual wear. If we look at this position, we can notice that white does not enjoy the 2 rooks, but the knight and rook, which is traditionally a verse constellation. Caleb, what do you think? Who would you rather be here?
Well, generally, I think that rooks are worth more than knights, and so
Yes.
I think that that's a good philosophy holds true here, and Dennis has quite a nice position.
Kadrich has some very nasty threats set up here. On the other hand, let's not hate on the knight. This is a powerful knight supported by the pawn.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for Jack Stembuliak, it's really not doing too much.
Right.
There's no potential jumps because this structure is well defended. And this rook alone will not checkmate the black king.
Yes, and black has this extra pawn, just as the kicker.
Yes,
Anyways.
just as the kicker. So this looks fairly bleak for white.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Maybe he was just feeling a bit too lighthearted, a bit too happy with his colorful hoodie, and what he
Yes.
needed was some more serious clothes to
Yes.
bring down the pain on his
Yep.
opponents.
So for serious business, serious clothing.
Of course. All right. So this game is actually huge for the B group. If Jack
Yes.
were to lose this game, that gives Yasser Quesada Perez the chance to come back and at least take a half-point lead with the draw, and even a full-point lead going into the last round if he were to win this game.
Talking about B group rivals.
Yes.
Quesada is playing black against Aram Hakobian.
Yeah, so this is another very relevant game to the B group standings.
And as we see, Hakobian is actually under some pressure. Not that it's too big of an advantage,
Right.
but let's say if black to play rook c4, piling on the c pawn, eventually with rook c8, black is in no danger of losing.
Yeah, I agree. White has a weakness on c3,
Yeah.
and once again, it seems like I say it about every endgame, but I really hate having the weaker king in
Yes.
endgames. It just makes everything so much more difficult. And this king on h2 is by far a lot weaker than the king on
Yes.
g8.
So I think that objectively, Aram Hakobian might be able to draw this.
Yes.
But from experience, I can tell you, you can say it's a drawn position, but you still have to survive 5 more hours of suffering.
Exactly. And yeah, these players have shown they're very much willing to
Yes.
go into those 6-hour games
Yes.
just to really grind home, try to get that full point. So what's our current position on the board, actually? Is it
So
this?
actually, it's not. It's rook ge1. That was the last move played.
Okay.
So I'm just suspecting rook c4 is coming next, piling
Sure.
up on this pawn. And I think it's black to be preferred here.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let's analyze a bit, because in that position you had on the board, I thought maybe black had a tactic. So rook c4 is
Okay.
logical. Yeah, I think queen takes c6 makes a lot of sense. Rook takes, and then you wanted to play bishop d4 here,
Yes.
but I was wondering if I could get away with bishop b2 and just taking this pawn.
can I go here?
Yeah, I was going to capture,
Here.
and rook a b or c8 rather, rook a c8.
I'll take you.
Take.
And
you
check,
get my a
check,
pawn. Okay.
draw.
At the end of the game, or the
No.
end of the line, you get the a pawn.
Yes. But
Uh,
actually, maybe Quesada wouldn't be too upset with a draw as that would propel him into clear first place.
Yeah, very true. Although I think in a position like the one that he has now, he is in no danger of losing. So no reason to go directly into the draw line. However, it might make sense to trade off the queens, just eliminate all risk.
That's true, but sometimes you want to secure the situation. And yeah, so far this looks very good for Quesada.
All right, we'll have to keep an eye on this endgame, see what Yasser Quesada Perez can do. But in the meantime, why don't we jump over to the A group? I think Varakobian actually has quite an interesting game going on.
Okay, let's take a look at that.
Yeah, we see Var there, with his eyes almost shut, it seems, but thinking hard at the board.
Yes, and in fact, as I can see, White's blundered knight takes d4, which is probably
disaster.
Yeah, it's disaster, because probably White thought that, okay, this checkmate is not a big deal, I'll be able to defend that, but
yeah, there's queen f2, but this leaves the knight behind.
Yes.
So is White simply losing now?
White
perhaps?
is simply losing.
Wow, and just looking at Bortnik over the board, he head in his hands for a moment there.
Yeah.
He's clearly a little bit distressed about hanging this tactic.
Shaking his legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel the pain.
I feel it. I feel it through the screen.
Feel the pain.
Meanwhile, Var leans back and says, "No, I'll take a free pawn.
Yes.
Why not?
Free pawns is my life."
So,
so with that,
if Var were to win here, he would actually go up to just 50%, 4 out of 8. I thought this might bring him to a positive score, but Var himself has actually had a rather up and down tournament.
Yeah.
Losing a very nice game by Ray Robson.
yeah,
in the
probably
French just a
that
couple
was
rounds
the
ago.
critical game that kind of put some pressure on Akobian's tournament.
Yeah, definitely.
He needed to score there to have a decent chance at the top prizes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to be fair, Ray Robson has been putting pressure on everybody's tournament in the past
5
few
out
days.
of 5 in the mid of the tournament, that's world-class stuff.
It's incredible.
So, talking about world-class stuff, let's get back to the game of the day.
All right, how is the game of the day doing here?
And
Between
it's-
Durabaili and Jordan van Forest.
And it seems that Jordan is piling some pressure on Durabaili, and you can even see on the gestures. Just look at Durabaili kind of observing reluctantly of what's going on.
Yeah, you get this interesting body language where the player who's pressing starts to lean forward and the player who's defending starts to lean back, and then they kind of go back and forth in this way.
Like White seems to be just observing from afar, more like daydreaming. Not anymore, but he did. Now both players are back in tank.
Jordan redoubles his efforts, leans even further over the board, wants to make sure his opponent can see.
Yeah, Jordan is in deep calculation. You can sense that he's eyeballing the g2 pawn really hard.
Yeah, definitely. He's just going to stare at it until it falls off the board, I think is his plan.
Notice Jordan's hand gestures. Some players would even start moving around, actually showing the direction of the calculation.
Right. And I just want to stress the importance of this game. Jordan van Forest, if he wins today, he has a chance to force Ray Robson into a playoff tomorrow. However, with anything but a win, this will decide the tournament. Ray Robson will be your Group A champion if Jordan cannot pull this off.
So Jordan has a substantial time advantage as well. He has 20 minutes against 8.
Yes, always nice to have that in your back pocket.
10 more moves to make, and if Black, and he's about to make a move.
Yeah. And of course, these are not easy moves for White as well. Black is creating some very serious threats.
And as I said, there's just a lot of weaknesses in White's position. And as we all know, if you want to win a game, you need to have at least 2 weaknesses in your opponent's position.
Right.
And in fact, White's position is even more unstable than that, because potentially this king could also get under some heavy attack. So I still think that is Van Forest for the win.
All right, and yeah, we see Queen G6 get played, and now why don't we stick around and see what Vasif is going to do about this light squared attack.
Queen G6 is a really strong move. Why? Well, because it's not a one-move threat. It
Yes.
actually sets up threats, multiple threats. So black might eventually want to go bishop e4 and hit this c2 pawn. Also, this queen on e2 is tied down. Cannot ever take because g2 is checkmate immediately. And you can't really try to block this queen from attacking this pawn because the c2 pawn would drop.
Yeah, exactly. Some uncomfortable threats for
Also,
white to deal
I
with.
think bishop b2 runs into heavy tactics.
Heavy tactics.
Heavy tactics.
Oh my goodness, how heavy?
Very heavy.
Very heavy.
Heavier than that statue in front of the Hall of Fame.
Heavier than that statue in front of the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure I catch your meaning. What tactics are you referring to, first of all?
Takes.
Ah, okay.
And I call bank and I take all your pawns.
So you found the heavy tactics even
Yes.
heavier than the world's largest chess piece in
Exactly.
front of the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Okay. Well, while Vasif is considering his options here, of course, queen g6 is a very nice move to make while your opponent's in time pressure. You know, you let him decide, okay, I'm setting up these latent threats. You can decide how you want to defend, but I'm going to give you options. You have choices to make. Instead of a very forcing line, which he can kind of blitz out very quickly.
And notice that Durar Bailey is in heavy tank now. If we can have a close-up on him, he has some issues dealing what to do now. And in fact, this is what you should be aiming for when you're playing chess, posing difficult problems.
Yes, very difficult problems indeed. However, in the B group, some difficult problems have not been posed. In that game we were just looking at between Yasser Quesada Perez and Aram Hakobian, they have actually agreed to a draw after rook c4. Perhaps black had in mind some of those lines we were looking at,
Yes,
where it was
so
just going to be 3 versus 3.
Rook
in a
c4
rook
was
game.
played, and as we expected, probably they thought that this bishop b2 line is just a draw.
Right.
And I think we tend to agree that it is.
Yeah, not a whole lot to play for if there were to go down this line. Maybe Yasser had some other options to keep the game going, but it's good tournament strategy for him to take the draw here.
Yes.
He has that advantage going into the final rounds, and it puts all the pressure on the people chasing him to try to make something happen.
Both Aram Hakobian and Jack Stambuliak. Actually, Aram Hakobian is not far off from them.
Aram only a half point behind Yasser after
Who
today.
is he playing in the last round?
That is an excellent question, and we'll have to get our researchers on
As
that.
he might be the surprise of the tiebreaks.
Yeah,
because he might sneak into a three-way tie.
The talk of the tournament so far has been Yasser Quesada Perez and Jack Stambuliak, but now Aram Hakobian just a half point out of the lead going into the final round. Anything could really happen in this B group still. Meanwhile, the other B group game that we should definitely be keeping an eye on is this game between Jack Stambuliak and Denis Kadrich. Denis seems to be very, very close to actually winning this game. And if Denis were to win, that would essentially knock Jack out of his chances at winning in this B group. And so it would really just be down between Yasser and Aram Hakobian.
So some moves been played here. Rook cb6. So Stambuliak couldn't really find a useful move, so decided to take a pawn,
Fair enough.
which is a fair choice. Rook b2, queen a2. And if you ever do this, do post your heavy pieces on the second rank,
Okay.
pressuring this f2 pawn, because if that falls, the game is literally over.
Yeah,
Rook
in
b4.
fact, it's tough to see what white would do if black simply played rook d2, rook bb2, and then checkmated the white king.
Yes, so rook d2, rook bb2, and a very strange version of the Alakhine's gun would show up.
Yes, the lateral.
The lateral Alakhine's gun.
Sure.
Very nice.
And so, yeah, Denis actually playing a bit of a spoiler in this tournament.
Yes.
If he manages to defeat Jack today, which I'm expecting him to, he spoils Jack's chances at winning. And tomorrow, Aram Hakobian will actually have to face the man in the purple hoodie who took the purple hoodie off to win today. Because Denis will be getting a chance to spoil Aram's chances at the tournament title tomorrow as well.
But I think it will be a splendid matchup because I would expect fireworks there, as both players seems to be fairly ambitious.
Yes,
Kadrich
Dennis.
seems to be,
Yeah, well, this
Yeah.
Dennis, Dennis
this
Kadrich,
Dennis. Kadrich seems to be,
yeah, some of the most exciting chess this
he's
this
playing
tournament.
the most exciting chess at the moment, and I'm assuming that both of them will be ready to fight. And in
Absolutely.
fact, talking about fighting, if White will play Rook C7 here, bam! And Rook E2, and even if you would give a check, that wouldn't help you as E3 is coming, blocking this diagonal, also signaling the end of the game.
It's ripping
with
open the white king.
all the rook and queen invading.
Certainly a lot of problems for Jack Strzembulik to solve, and it just seems impossible.
This does feel like Dennis is likely to win this game.
All right. Well, what games are you interested in checking out, Dennis?
Let's take a look at Ilya Smirin's game.
Absolutely.
Let's actually start from the beginning.
It's a
This
great
was-
place to start.
Yes, always the best place to start, the beginning. So this game was played between Alex Ipatov and Ilya Smirin, and as we know, Ilya Smirin just won his previous game against Bortnik in a
Right.
splendid modern game
Absolutely.
where he just smashed the modern. So as we could all predict, and almost he kind of hinted at that when I said that he's an expert at the Benoni, he said, no, I'm a King's Indian player. And here it comes.
All right.
The
a
King's
man of his
Indian.
word.
E5 and
This H3 line is
Yes.
quite interesting for white.
so
actually.
D5 is the ambitious move.
Yeah.
But Alex Ipatov took on E5.
Ooh, boo.
And now Ilya Smirin is going to show how do you play for a win if there's going to be lots of exchanges.
Right.
So Queen D8, Rook takes, Knight A6. This is a typical King's Indian play. Black is not afraid to lose a pawn if he can get some active piece play going.
Yeah, of course.
Knight D5, Rook D6, a typical way of defending the knight, otherwise it would be lost. Takes, Rook C1, Rook D8. So if takes, I have Rook E6, and I have good pressure on your position.
Right.
So Rook C1, Bishop D8. And this is an interesting thing. Lots of players are reluctant to put the bishop back. But I've seen many great Russian grandmasters and the US champion, namely Gatakamsky,
Yes.
famously tucking his bishops away and using it to full effect 15 moves later.
Yeah, especially early on in the game, the bishops are kind of susceptible to being attacked. You'll see in a lot of openings, like if a bishop comes to c5 or f5, very often like a knight appears on h4, attacking this bishop, trying to harass it, trying to take it off the board. And bishops, being a long-range piece, can perform just the same tasks just as well from far away.
Yes. So this bishop does a good work of defending against any potential jumps
And
of the knights.
it's unattackable
Yes.
from d8.
It's unassailable at d8. c5, rook e6, a3, c6, takes. So white is kind of exchanging as many pieces as possible, but beware of the latent power of the bishop pair. D takes, rook e7, f5. And to be honest with you, I'd still consider this a big success for black, as Ilya Smirin still has the bishop pair on the board and an unbalanced position where black has the majority on the king side while white has the majority on the queen side.
Right.
So, in fact, I think Ipatov didn't manage to clarify the position enough, and Ilya Smirin is going to start playing for a win here.
Okay.
Bishop d5, king f8, rook d1, rook b8. And the sad part when you don't have the bishop pair, you don't have the luxury of opening up the position, because that would just let the dragon out.
Yes. Any opening of more diagonals, more files, really favors the bishops rather
Yes.
than this knight on f3, which is not really making a good impression
Yes.
at the moment.
But if white does not open the position, Black will have enough time to develop the pieces out.
Right.
b4, bishop c7. Notice that Smirin is making sure that all of his pawns are well defended, and he goes from there. Knight d2, bishop d7, everything's protected. Now we can develop. Bishop b3, e4, no more pressure. You will never go back to f3. Knight c4, bishop e6, opposing this bishop, and this bishop is kind of happy there, as it's, again, very hard to get close to that, as this rook will have trouble breaking through this blockade on e4. Rook b1, b6. Eventually, Black has to open up the position, otherwise the bishop's power will not be felt. Especially this bishop needs more squares. c6, trying to close it up, but no. b5, knight e3, takes, rook e6. And look how much Smirin's position improved. He has a clear majority in the center, ready to roll, while also there's a potential weakness on c6.
Yep, he has targets. He has future plans of creating a passed pawn with f4 and e3. Everything looking up for Smirin here.
So since the 12th move, when we exchanged and got the bishop pair, we've had 16 extra moves, and it looks a lot nicer for Black.
Yeah, this is the power of just playing logical chess,
Yes.
clear chess. Ilya didn't do anything special. He just made sure his pieces were defended, and he played to his strengths. He pushed his majority up in the center, and he improved his pieces bit by bit.
Yeah. So rook c3, rook c8, latently threatening it. So probably bishop b6 or bishop b5 is also on the cards now. g3, bishop b6, and as predicted, lots of pressure on the c6 pawn now. Rook c1, rook d6. You give me the file, I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Rook king f1, bring in the kings, king d8. And sadly for white, this pawn, I have the feeling, is going to fall sooner or later. Let's say
Right.
a6.
Black is bringing in, of course, the king as the third attacker
Yes.
that he needs to take out this pawn.
And with a safe king position on c7, a firm control on the d file, the only thing left that Black needs to do is to prepare the march of the black pawns.
Yeah,
rook
it's very
f8.
important as well that the b pawns are still on the board. That could become
Yes.
relevant a lot later in the game. If white ever is considering trying to get rid of all of the pawns on the king's side, there's still these b pawns that he has to worry about.
Yes. So this is a very instructive game so far by Ilya Smirin, how to try to get the maximum out of like a fairly even position.
Right. And I got to tell you, Dennis, as the player with the white pieces, I do face the King's Indian quite a bit, and it hurts me to see people playing these boring lines where they take on e5 and then try to play some endgame. Don't they know that opening loses by force? You just have to win on the queen's side. Black will never
Exactly.
checkmate you if you do everything correctly. Just play perfectly and then win the game. It's not so hard.
Yeah, it's no wonder I said that d5 is the main line.
Yes.
If they give you the center, take the center.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, in my opinion. But okay, Ilya Smirin showing a lot of logical chess, a lot of very
Yes.
simple but very strong chess.
So talking about logical chess, let's take a look at Alex Lenderman's game between him and Boros.
Right, both of these players having a very decent tournaments in the A group, both on 50% still, hoping to make that last little push into a very good tournament with these last two rounds.
So let's back up a little bit to the critical position here. Here, White decided it's time for some action.
Okay.
And we already learned what we're supposed to do if we have the bishop pair in Ilya Smirin's game. And now we can guess what Lenderman will do.
All right, well,
It's
clearly
White to move and play.
you have to open it up. And there are a few ways to do that here. d4 was his choice. Of course, if e takes d, you never capture that pawn back with the e pawn. That would be
Never.
ridiculous.
Yes.
Closing the center.
But in fact, tactics is always in the air.
That's the way to do it.
Knight takes d5 is a very nice move by Alex Lenderman. The point being, you can't really get an advantage from taking on d5, as queen d4 sets up a double threat of attacking the knight and preparing mate on h8.
Checkmate is dangerous.
So knight f6 was played, takes on f6, takes, knight b3, and it's not really over, because even though white has the bishop pair, the advantage will be on one side of the board, and it's never easy to convert that.
Of course.
So rook takes c8 was played as this knight is attacking this c1 rook. Takes, bishop b7. If they give you the pawn for free, take it.
Okay.
Rook b8, takes, rook b1, a4, bishop c6, and now the a4 pawn is falling. But here, Svirts plays a very nice move.
Ah, yes. I hate it when you do this, and I have to come up with a very nice move. Is his very nice move rook b6,
Yes.
taking off one of the bishop pair?
Yes.
All right.
And it's tricky. Sometimes we fall, and I've seen many players forgetting about these threats.
Yes. This is what happens when you don't play like Ilya Smirin. Ilya playing very carefully, making sure his pieces are defended, unassailable.
Yeah.
But if you put pieces on squares where they're undefended, you're going to run into tactics, no matter what
Yes.
position it is.
So white is still better, but it's an opposite colored bishop endgame.
Right.
With rooks still on the board, but it's very hard to make heads and tails of how to win this. And actually, I think black improved more on his position than white did, as this is probably the maximum you can get, trying to put pressure on the f7 pawn.
Right. But black just sets up on the dark squares. This bishop, actually, the bishop and the king together can nullify this rook by blocking
Yes.
any of the files. And it's not going to be a lot for white.
Yeah, I still assume white should have tried go king g2, g4, king g3, f4, and try to somehow force black to sacrifice the bishop for all the pawns, and hope for a rook bishop versus rook endgame, which is a
Yeah.
draw,
Mhm.
but it takes a lot of effort for the defender to actually hold.
And perhaps we will still see this later to come in this game.
Maybe, but I feel that white did miss his chances of actually getting there, as his bishop is much worse placed on c2 than it was on b3.
Right. Yes. Very, very difficult to win now for
Yes.
Linderman. I definitely agree.
So let's see what's going on in the key game between Durar Bailey Vasif
Of course.
and Jordan van Forest.
And oh no, I don't like what's happened in this
You
game.
don't like what's happening.
I don't like it at all.
You don't like it at all.
I've seen opposite color bishop endgames before. I have tried to win many opposite color bishop endgames. I've tried to lose many opposite color bishop endgames. Somehow, no matter how good I play, how bad I play, it's always a draw.
All right, so let's take a stab at it. So we don't want to give away this pawn, I assume.
Certainly not.
Let's put it on a square where this guy can't put pressure on us.
Okay.
So potentially, if I can start running with my king up to c4 and nurse this pawn, maybe I can win.
Yeah, it is 2 pawns for black here. But I don't really see this happening. If you play g6,
I think
let's see, what do I want to do?
maybe we want the king on d4 to stop this d5 invasion, don't we?
Yeah, I definitely agree. So yeah, king e3 we'll start
king
with.
e3. So okay, king e6.
King d4.
Big question is if I can start harassing your pawns on the other side. So h5 wouldn't make sense because let's say here it takes h4 and
I'm
then
I'm getting closer to a total
draw. Question is, maybe I should fix these pawns so I could go here
Yeah.
and take.
Why don't we go back to that starting position
Okay.
where you play g6?
Uh-huh.
Here maybe black is actually considering the slightly counterintuitive g5.
g5?
Fixing his pawns on dark squares, but fixing his opponents on light squares. And so hoping later on maybe for a bishop f1 idea.
And
of,
indeed
hitting
was
this
played.
pawn.
G5 was played.
Oh, yeah.
Fixing the pawn on g4 and h3. So okay, I think I wouldn't want to let this pawn go down to e2. So
Certainly not.
I want to go king e3.
Yeah, and what else to do besides bring the king forward?
So I might try to eat all the pawns that you give me before it's too late.
Fair enough. this looks problematic, but if you go chasing my pawns, maybe I have time to play a5.
Okay, I take. Wait, takes. Okay, I take it.
Okay, I don't think I have time to play king f6 because then you can play bishop f8, and
Yeah, and I
I
stop.
really, yes.
Your only plan, basically.
So I must continue with b4.
I take.
I will take back. Will I take back?
You will, because
I guess I will take back.
Like this doesn't really help you. I can just come back.
Yes. The only point would be it's farther away from my other pawn, so it'd be more difficult for your king to catch.
Yeah,
but in this case, I
you-
need to get rid of your b pawn.
Yeah, you need to get rid of my pawn. Takes. King d4. So I'm kind
Okay.
of planning to use my bishop here.
Yeah, now I can play king f6 though, and you're only getting one of my pawns on the king
Bishop
side.
f8.
And I think I've made real progress on the queen side here. I have to play b3, and king c3 or bishop a3. I will go ahead and let's see, what will I play?
I think I built a fortress.
You've built a fortress.
Because even if you go here, I just wait. And you can only go back and forth, and I will never move my king.
You will never move your king.
Yes.
Is that so?
You want to test it?
So I'm just trying to make, obviously I
Uh-huh.
think black's only idea is an eventual bishop f1 to h3. But the problem with that is your king is in time to defend your g pawn as well.
Yes, I will defend my pawn in due time. So, I think let's go back. g5. I think that should have been equal, unless you have
Okay.
any other suggestion. Yeah, go
let's just
ahead.
continue just a little bit further.
Yes.
Even that final position there, black, you're saying black can't win this position. What if I play king e5 and I just bring my king over to the queen side? Are you going to be able to take my g pawn without leaving yours behind? Yeah, bishop f1. Okay, bishop b5, we'll say, just for fun.
Okay.
Yeah, and bishop d7.
Mm-hmm.
And now I will come king d5.
And then a little bit of a switcheroo.
Okay, you pulled the switcheroo on me.
Yes.
So you're just in time.
I'm just in time.
Very unfortunate. These
Yes.
bishop endgames,
Are tricky.
like I said, somehow, no matter how well I play, how poorly I play,
it's
just a draw.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So the current position,
the current position is king g3, which I don't like, honestly.
wow,
Because-
so now a difference here is, you know, in all those lines, white was able to give up these tempi with the pawn at the right moment. Whenever black could advance a pawn, white was getting something very serious in exchange for it. Here, black can advance a pawn, and all white's going to be able to do is, I guess, trade off one of the pawns with h4. But I'm not sure that's enough to justify allowing this pawn
Again,
to get to
let's
e2.
take a look at the players. Look at those gestures.
Yes.
Do you think?
Well, you're the psychologist here, Dennis.
Do you think
but,
Jordan is sure that he's winning? What about that hand gesture on the neck?
Yeah, he seems very apprehensive.
Yes.
He knows, of course, that he has to win this game to keep his chances alive. But meanwhile, Vasif's body language, I don't think is looking quite comfortable either.
Yes. And also notice the clock.
Yes, he keeps
It's
glancing
below
over.
2 minutes. So that's not great. e3, and this is the thing that I was kind of afraid of. And the point why I kind of wanted to keep the king on the king side is that I can protect it from any cross from trying to eat my flowers and
Yes.
stuff.
From any claws trying to eat your flowers.
Crows.
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 Crows,
Sorry.
yes.
Crows, yes.
Okay. Of course, the crow being the bishop on c3.
Yes.
And your flowers being your wonderful pawns on
Yes.
h6 and g5.
So e2. So now I think let's take a walk with the king.
Okay, it's time.
I think I should go king f2. It's time.
Yes.
And
And we
let's,
get something very similar now.
Okay, let's go king
but-
c4 instead.
Okay. So you have something very similar, but instead the pawn is on e2 rather than e4.
We're getting there. I think they're doing the same thing that we're doing here, and maybe let's try to take the pawn now.
Right. So of course, bishop takes g5 would be fatal for white. Giving black
Yeah.
connected passers is something you can't really do. So bishop f8 instead, and now black still has this idea of a5.
King e1, but I'm not sure what that does. b4.
Yeah, b4.
Takes.
Well,
What if I go here?
Now I'm not so sure I even want to take your pawn. I might want to do that idea with a4, but let's continue here. See, king c3. What is white doing?
So it's interesting. I would like instinctively feel that this looks suspicious for white.
Yeah, this looks quite dangerous as well.
But in
I
fact,
guess,
But in fact, you can do this and just start pushing the pawn.
right.
And these pawns will be just in time to distract this bishop from its duty, and that will be the last but crucial pawn falling.
Disaster.
Not that this is easy to do this.
Right.
In time pressure.
Yeah, especially calculating this far ahead would be pretty ridiculous.
So objectively, this is a draw with king d2, not letting the king closer, and then start pushing the pawn, and it's a draw.
Right. And although Durbali was in time pressure, they have just made move 40, so now he has half an hour on his clock and plenty of time to really calculate these variations out.
Yes, but remember, even when the players reach move 40, the tension is still there,
Of course.
and the drama continues.
Absolutely. Well, what games have we not checked out yet? Perhaps I think
Let's-
we've seen all of the A group, but over in the B group, have we looked at Petrosian versus Mihajlovsky?
No, but let's take a look at the Amon Hambleton game for a second,
Of course.
as many of our viewers clamor to see him.
The Saman guy just
Playing.
can't keep track of his queen. It keeps disappearing.
It turns out that he got a little bit too attached to having the rook
Yes.
and knight against the queen, which is unfortunate, but let's back it up a little bit to see what happened. So here, this seems like a normal position, but there's some weak spots here which would not
Yeah,
attack one piece.
I believe that is the greatest family fork we've seen
Yes. This is like
yet. Oh, and breaking news, Varakobian has actually won his game against Alexander Bortnik, which is what we expected after Bortnik missed this nice knight takes d4 tactic.
yeah, so coming back to the Hambleton game, this is indeed the biggest family meeting that I've seen in chess.
Yes, if only Black were to play knight f4, then knight takes e6, attacks all of
All
Black's
of them.
pieces, although it's not quite
Yeah.
as good there.
So you can sense how sad Amon's position is when knight e6 would just attack everything. So rook e8 was played, queen e3. You can't even push e5 because then your rook is dropping.
Okay.
Queen d7, rook a6, and white really wants to have that family getting together happen.
He's really eyeing this square. But
Rook
one by
c8.
one, Black has actually removed his pieces from the attack of the knight takes e6.
But here, Grigoryan comes up with this very nice move. And sadly for Black, queen sacrifice is necessary, otherwise you lose everything. With the knight again.
Yes, this
Dropping
fork just
piece.
not going away.
Yes. So knight takes e6. And this is the part when it can get really sad, that you're trying to defend against knight takes e6, but you try harder and harder for 5 moves, and the move that finishes you off is knight takes e6.
Yeah.
Queen d4 takes f3. And yes, this is a lot like the Zirk game that Amon sadly had to suffer through, and it's pretty much the same deal. Black is doomed to wait forever, but is probably going to be a loss. Black can still try to hold and build a fortress, but it really is the question of Avetik Grigoryan's technique.
Right, and here actually I think it is a bit different than the Zirk game. All the pawns are on the same side of the board this time,
Yeah.
but white does have an extra pawn, and black doesn't have quite as many squares to put this knight on. It's kind of just hanging around, kind of floating around, not really a solid outpost for
Yes.
that piece. But yeah, I guess the last game that we have not yet looked at is Manuel Petrosian against Viktor Mihajlovsky. And it looks like Black has actually sacrificed an exchange in this game, but has a powerful c3 pawn for it.
And also this bishop does good work, as we see Tony Rich looking around, if everything is okay. And as far as I know, everything has been fairly okay and
Yeah,
fair.
I haven't heard any complaints from the players yet, but yeah, what's going on here? So we have this pawn blockaded on the light squares.
So Black has a pawn and a bishop for the rook.
Right.
But this bishop on d3 is kind of useless. Apart from defending the rook and the c2 square, has no active prospects, as these pawns, like stone walls, keep that bishop from doing any damage to Black's position. So I feel that this position is just fine for Mihajlovsky.
Well, yes. No, I would think if anybody, Mihajlovsky would be the one pushing for a win here.
Could be, but I think it's still an exchange. An exchange is an exchange. So let's say a5 with the idea of knight b4.
Yes, that seems like the most reasonable way
But
to do
even there, let's say not e4, but waiting around, I'm not sure if this is obviously Black having the better chances, but is this over? I'm not sure.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, once again, we see these opposite colored bishops,
Yeah.
but definitely Black for choice.
Yeah, Black
a
for
position
choice,
like this.
definitely, and trying. And in fact, Petrosian played a3, just making sure that would never happen.
Yes, cutting off this Black knight.
But I think this kind of reminds me of a Hungarian tale when the fox invites the bird for lunch.
Yes.
And sadly, nobody can eat. So it's basically a tie. Because you can't really capture this rook. Just to explain this story, you can't really capture this rook on a4, but you can't really feed on this bishop on b2 either.
Okay.
So it's a draw.
Understandable.
More like a positional tsutswang.
Right. Okay. Well, why don't we invite Var Kobian in for some lunch here?
Let's do that.
Because that man did manage to eat today. He won his game after a nice knight takes d4 tactic, and why don't we get him in the studio here to explain it a little
Right.
bit.
Let's take a look at that one. So this was a game played by Var Akobian with Black against Alexander Bortnik. Started off, not surprisingly, as a French bishop b4. A very aggressive setup. Nowadays, everybody plays knight f6, knight d7, and c5, and it's a normal position. But Akobian had some setbacks against Robson in this very line, so he decided, I think, to mix it up just a little bit and go for bishop b4. E takes d5. And to be honest, E takes d5 got a bit of attraction since the Ivanchuk-Sovesli game, where Sovesli won in the World Cup, and that was his biggest upset at the moment, knocking out Ivanchuk. But talking about a French expert, we have Var Akobian here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I don't think he expected the bishop b4 because he spent like 5-6 minutes here, and he took. And I was very familiar with this line. Actually, I actually won a good game in 2017 in a World Rapid Championship against Alexeyev, strong GM from Russia. So it was very similar. So yeah, we can.
So what's the difference between this line and a normal exchange French?
No, the knight is on c3, and
is that like a positive for who?
I think it's. I enjoy playing them for black, so I don't think it's. Yeah, structure is fixed, but it's still a lot of play left, and all the pieces are on the board. And in particular, I think he started to go wrong, like maybe move 7 already, because I actually want to play f6 in this position.
Yeah, you are going for the long side castle.
I
and
actually
mating.
want to do this, and he played this. I don't think he was very familiar with the ideas. In order to play for the win, I wanted to play f6, bishop f5, queen e7 long time. So he gave me a couple of tempos here, actually.
So if I'm honest, as far as I know, a3 is the
Yeah.
main move here.
Yeah, a3, and then
Asking.
I can take on c3 here, or I can go back even bishop
Bishop
a5.
a5.
My game, I play bishop a5 against Alexeyev.
Mhm.
So
So knight g7, bishop g5,
yeah,
which is a little bit
slight,
off.
already slight off, and now
Mhm.
f6 and bishop g5 also. You know, no, you play bishop f4,
Mhm.
and again at some point I will get this g5 with the tempo.
With the tempo,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Bishop
and
f5.
castle. Yeah, I think here this rook e1 was a really bad move
Mhm.
because rook on e1 is just misplaced and
Mhm.
it takes away his knight b5 idea. What I
Mhm.
think he should have done is knight b5 here.
Immediately.
Yeah,
Mhm.
knight b5. Then I'm forced to play bishop a5, and he plays something like c3,
Mhm.
a6, knight a3, and then just try to bring the knight back to.
Would you still
e3.
consider castling long in this position with black,
I'm
or not
sure.
anymore?
I'm not sure if I will because knight before b5 comes in with the tempo.
Mhm.
So probably I was just gonna I had to castle short.
Mhm.
I mean black is absolutely fine here.
Yeah.
Just it's just not gonna be as lively
Yes.
like in a game.
It's
you know?
going to be
Yeah.
like a slow positional game.
So I have to probably like knight c2.
Mhm.
Maybe I have to take on d3 and play like knight d8, knight d6,
Mhm.
c6.
Yeah, this is like
yeah,
a-
black is fine, but
Black is,
Yeah.
but it's like a normal
It's
position
normal.
for both.
yeah.
So rook e1.
Rook e1, I think a really bad move, and he took a lot of time here.
Mhm.
This was like really unusual. After
Mhm.
I castled, he spent like another 25 minutes
Mhm.
here. So he was thinking the most of the opening,
Mm-hmm.
and he got down to really low on the clock very early. So rook a1. So now he played
Bishop
bishop
e3.
e3. So as you
which is
can
a-
see now, two tempos are
Yeah.
lost. Bishop g5.
Bishop
f4.
g5 was played,
Yeah.
bishop f4, and now bishop e3. That's
After
a lot of
bishop
tempi.
e3, I already knew I need to just try to play aggressively for a
Mhm.
win. So and plus he was low on time, so I
Mhm.
played g5. That's a good move. And this is important to give
Mhm.
up the bishop because
Mhm.
if you play bishop a5, it's he plays b4, knight a4.
And there's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
free
yeah.
play for.
And if you play bishop d6, he has knight b5.
Yeah. And
So,
finally he could
yeah.
play knight b5 that he
Yeah.
couldn't. So you took.
So yeah, he took. I have to take the bishop because he could play bishop f1 here and keep the
Mhm.
bishop. So I have to take knight f5, and here this knight a4 stuff I think is just bad.
Mhm.
It just didn't quite work out for him. I think he's already slightly worse here, but he should play something like maybe f3, bishop f2.
Mhm, just getting
Yeah.
into the defensive. mode.
Defensive mood and just try to. It's slightly worse,
Mhm.
clearly, but this knight a4 just didn't quite work. It only
Mhm.
weakened the position because
Yeah.
I played b6.
b6.
He doesn't really have an attack there.
Yeah, and yeah, like you're playing a reverse Sicilian, you're
Yeah.
putting your king into safety, and b6 is
Yeah.
just a good
It's a great,
defensive move. yeah.
good defensive move. So you play b4 and now rook h8. I bring all my pieces
Yeah.
in.
Rook
Now,
b1.
okay, I have to make sure I don't blunder knight c5.
Yeah.
The only trick in the position.
But this is again a typical Sicilian move. You don't
Yeah.
ever get checkmated
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Because the king is safe in the corner and rook b8 is
yeah,
just defending
that's why I had to play
everything.
king b8 because he was already threatening knight c5.
Yeah.
So, and now he came back again. So this was a
Yeah.
very weird game. He kept
Yeah.
trying to do something, then coming back, and now I'm,
Yeah,
not
you
much
just
you
have
can
a
do.
free
Now
attack.
h5, yeah,
Yeah.
h5, a4, a4 I think, and here he surprised me because I think you should play h3, and it
Mhm.
wasn't so easy. I mean, I'm better here, but it's not so crystal clear here
Yeah.
how and he got down to like 3 seconds here.
3 seconds.
Yeah,
wow.
it was a really
Move
severe,
20.
severe time trouble.
That's big.
After h3, I didn't see a clear way. I mean, I'm better.
Yeah, probably some.
Maybe I have to take the
action.
bishop actually.
Yeah, and just
Take and play
g4.
g4, but it's not so easy. But
Yeah.
he has loosened his queen side quite a
Mhm.
lot. So
Yeah.
I might be able to even
Yeah.
be better in some endgames.
So you played
because it's
f3 a bit too late.
loose. F3, it's already late. And again, he has no
Yeah.
time. So h3.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was thinking g4 was better because he could control that f5 square, which later on I had for my queen.
Yeah.
Because knight h4, he has bishop f2. I don't think knight h4 does much.
Yeah, we just have a clear
Yeah.
target with 5.
So that's why I play g3. I think g3 is probably now. I feel like it's probably close to be winning after
Yeah.
g3. So I think
It's
I played
changed.
correctly. And now suddenly queen f5, and it's very loose his position.
Yes.
f3 is weak, d4 is weak, b4 is weak, c2 is weak.
Everything's so weak.
Yeah, and he can't really protect the position. For example, if you play like queen f2 to try to hold the position together, knight d4 wins.
Yeah.
Takes
And
queen c2.
same thing as in the game.
Yeah,
Double threats.
yeah. Actually, here maybe queen c2 is even better.
Queen c2 is
because
better.
It's just mate.
Yeah.
or lose the knight.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
you made it or you
But
lose.
queen
it.
f3 is winning also. That's
Yeah.
the game position in
Yeah.
the game.
So rook
So
b2,
two-
and this was
And this
the
was
game.
nice actually because
Yeah.
queen takes d4. There is one subtle move here, queen d2, and no,
Oh,
that's
queen d2, yeah.
queen d2, and now I have to find d4,
Yeah.
and basically rook e8 is coming.
e2.
Yeah. Rook e8, and now rook
Yeah.
e1 is a threat.
And also rook e1. So
Rook
if
e1. So
c4, then you can still push and then
yeah, and then
mates
Mate.
everywhere.
there might have been another way I could have
Yeah.
win, but so he played king f2, and here it's just already losing. Knight
Yeah.
takes e2,
Queen e7.
rook c8, and
And-
here I just wanted to.
Yeah,
get the
you're
knight
just winning all of the pawns.
Yeah, I'm 3 pawns up. Just had to be.
Yeah, a little bit precise.
Yeah, and the rest is just.
It's just agony for.
Yeah, he
White.
just played because I guess
Yeah.
he's not having a good tournament, and
Yeah. A nice way to defeat the French exchange. This is how the French exchange
Yes.
should be treated.
yes, yeah, I have a good results in
Mhm.
this line.
Mhm.
It's you know it's I feel comfortable
Mhm.
playing this position. I feel like so it's a good
So,
game.
very nice win, and now we know how to play against this line as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, it's this is bishop bishop before, and
Yeah.
probably against knight c3 bishop before is the critical,
Yeah.
and I should probably spend more time and
Yeah.
see if I can play more.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
and hope to see a nice last round game from you.
Thank you.
All right, and good luck.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at what Ilya Smirin is doing against Alex Ipatov. So since then, lots have changed. We left it off at a4, a6, and Alex Ipatov decided to go a5. Smirin decided to take on e3. Maybe there was an idea of keeping the bishop, but he chose to take instead. King c7, blockading the c6 pawn and freeing up the c8 rook to do whatever he'd like to do.
Oh goodness, yeah, this endgame looking quite dangerous for white. I did want to mention it seems to be a day for exciting chess. These white players, when they played the slightly less ambitious lines, we saw in this game Alex Ipatov exchange on e5 rather than
Yeah.
keep the center closed and play for a serious advantage. And in Var's games, of course, we saw the less ambitious takes on d5 line.
Yes.
And these black players seem to be doing quite well at
Yes.
negating this kind of slightly more boring type of chess and fighting for an advantage even.
There is a good reason why we call some lines side lines and
Right.
some lines main lines.
Okay.
So g4 was played, and in fact, Smirin could have been a little bit more accurate with rook f8, trying to take the pawn if g takes ever happens with the rook.
Right.
He decided to take first, rook f8, which I'm not sure I like, because why get rid of your own beautiful pawn structure?
Yeah,
If you don't
understandable.
have to.
And leaving this h pawn actually also a little bit behind.
Yes, rook h1, and Ipatov makes sure he targets that pawn. Rook f7, g5, rook d5, rook h4, e7, rook d6. We have some moves played here. Rook f4, rook takes c6.
Okay, so black has finally won this pawn on c6.
But black eventually found a way to win this pawn, and if we're honest, this is still a fair chance for black to push for a win, because if you would take checkmate, I might strongly
Yes.
consider getting an active king, and yes, we have equal, you're just down a pawn, but I will also have a warrior king to support my pawn.
Right. But this h7 pawn really makes a bad impression in this position. I don't
Yeah.
see why Ilya chose to go for this line where he takes on g4, opening up this h file for white.
Yes, I'm a little bit skeptical, and I'm not sure if that's objectively the best. I still would have preferred rook f8 and maybe take later.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So this is where we stand currently, I
Yeah.
guess. Rook takes c6 has just been played, and Alex Ipatov now has to decide what he's going to do about this. I certainly don't like this line with black's active king. So what else can white
but-
try here?
So I kind of feel that in the long term, black has real chances as this king. If that king ever gets the chance to take this pawn, I think those are real winning chances for Elias Marin.
Definitely. So what can white do to try
So
to
let's
prevent that
say
here?
you don't really want to move your rook because that would give free reign for this one. Could even go c4 or just rook e5, trying to win this pawn. And this king might get into some danger with both rooks entering the position.
It's looking a little bit suspicious there on e2.
Yeah, so in fact, king d2 makes the most sense. Black can go king b7, just waiting. And it's not that easy to make a useful move here for white.
Right, and for black, I think he's actually making a threat here of rook d6 followed by rook d5, hitting this g-pawn.
Either that or checks. So if I make a random move, I might check you,
Oh, yes.
take, and go here and take this guy.
Okay. So a lot of things to look out for.
Yeah,
to look out for white here.
So Elias Marin so far showed some very nice, fine technical chess. And might be going on a streak if he wins today.
Absolutely. This win would bring him to +1 and having a very decent tournament after all.
Yeah, with one more round to go. All right. So let's see if Lenderman did manage to squeeze some advantage out of that bishop endgame.
Okay, where do we stand here?
So we started from this position. Rook c1 was played, king f3, king g7, and f4. And basically the same plan that I was suggesting, that white eventually either wants to go e4, e5, or g4, g5.
Right.
So bishop d8, Lenderman chose e4, h4. Thing is, you don't want to go g4 because then the black squares might get super weak. I might even go g5 if I want to.
Yes, and setting up
And
just a dark square blockade.
yeah, just a
is
dark square
quite easy.
blockade, then it should be an easy draw. So g takes h4 is logical, takes e5, and this is still kind of uncomfortable to defend with black, but honestly it still revolves around equal, especially as this rook is just
Yeah, this one
putting
feels.
constant pressure on that c4 rook. And
This one
bishop
feels like
also.
it's well in hand for black, I
Yes.
think. White also does have to be careful if he wants to bring his king up the board as well. There's now an h-pawn to look out for. Need at least one of your pieces to kind of hang back to defend that guy.
Yes, I would assume that this game is likely to end in a draw.
All
But
right.
talking about opposite colored bishop endgames.
Yes, how is our game of the day doing in the A group?
So we have some moves that has been played since then. So e2 was played, bishop c3, king g6. So black didn't go for the long walk to a3, but decided to go to g6.
Yeah, fair enough, considering how when we actually put that line on the board, it
Yeah.
seemed as though white had just enough to
Yeah.
draw that game.
So Jordan decided that he is going to go here and attack the pawns frontally.
Interesting.
King f3, h5, king f2. Black is basically calling the shots, and Durabali can only wait and see what happens. Bishop e6, king f3, bishop d7, bishop d2.
So white choosing not to take on e2 and
Yes.
give black a pawn that's both passed and farther away from the queen's side.
Yes.
And this definitely makes sense because the farther away the pawns are for black, the more winning chances he can kind of generate.
Yes. Is this winning? Not 100% sure, but why would you go for this if you don't have to?
Exactly.
And so far, I'm not sure how black will make any progress here.
It
Because you
looks to
can-
be quite
yeah.
difficult after all.
Yeah, whenever you would go the other way, now I'll just go back and take that pawn.
Perhaps black will in fact play h takes g, and then start going this other way. Maybe you start with king f6 instead of king f7, just to give myself one extra turn. Yeah, I'll play king e7. And yeah, king d6 is my plan. And okay, you are getting this pawn over here. And I'm just nowhere near in time to do much.
Yeah,
it
and
looks
I
like.
will just take and go bishop e7 because I'm
Yes.
happy to give up my bishop for a pawn.
Yeah, you do get to take this pawn with check on g4, but then
Yeah.
unfortunately, no way to defend this pawn for black.
Yes.
So that pawn
And
must fall.
I have just too much pressure on this square, and there's no way to win this.
Yeah, shaping up to be a draw, it looks like.
Yes. And that's a little bit of a heartbreaker for Jordan, as he had a big advantage in the opening, was up a pawn, had some pressure, but somehow this game fizzled into a draw because Durabaili put up some stiff defenses.
Yes, and that is great news for Ray Robson, who will actually be the Group A champion. He will clinch it if Jordan Van Forest cannot win this game. And that's pretty much where we stand in the A group. Why don't we take another quick look at the B group, and before we
How's
say
Dennis
some closing
Kadrich
remarks.
doing?
Yes, that is the question. Of course, this game is still critical for the Group B standings. If Dennis does win this game, Jack will fall a full half point behind Yasser Quesada Perez, who is currently his co-leader.
Who's in number 2? It's Jack and...
So right now, we have Yasser Quesada Perez and Jack Stambuliak. They came into today with 5 points out of 7. Yasser has already drawn his game, putting him at 5.5. So now Jack sits at 5 out of 7. If he draws this, he will move to tied for first with Yasser. If he loses this, he stays a half point behind. And then the third player to worry about that we've been talking about is Aram Hakobian. He is also going to be at 5 out of 8 after today. His game has already been decided. So he will be also looking to chase Yasser tomorrow.
So he would still
Jack.
be in tied second place, aiming to catch Quesada.
Yes, absolutely.
So what will be the pairings tomorrow?
Well, why don't we, wrap up our thoughts
okay.
on this game first.
All
Make
right.
sure that Dennis is actually still winning.
Yes.
Don't want to count our chickens
Yes.
before they've hatched.
That's true.
So what's going on
But
here?
in fact, this looks like the beginning of the end.
Right.
Just to
Dennis,
quote the Doors here.
he does seem to have this idea of queen c3 over to f3, checkmating that white king pretty convincingly.
And with this queen just a move away from helping to checkmate is unfortunately not enough because black gets to go there
It's just
first.
too slow after all.
And Kadrich would pull up a big upset, which will have a profound influence on this whole tournament.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we hear from a quick word from Ryan Chester about some golden tickets. He has a golden opportunity for you viewers at home.
Hi, my name is Ryan Chester, and I'm the development manager for the St. Louis Chess Club. I'm here to tell everyone about a golden opportunity that we have right now. We're selling golden tickets for $50 a piece. It's a 50-50 raffle. $5,000 will go to the Scholastic Chess Initiative for the St. Louis Chess Club, and $5,000 will go to a lucky winner. We're only selling 200 of these, and we've already sold many to grandmasters and all of our commentary team as well. So if you're interested, please call the Chess Club or go to our website on the homepage and buy a golden ticket there. Thank you and good luck.
Yeah, welcome back to the Fall Chess Classic. Of course, a wonderful opportunity to support some Scholastic Chess, support chess in the schools, and get a chance to win some money for yourself with a $5,000 grand prize in those golden tickets. Time is running out. We are running short on tickets and short on time. Those tickets are going to be pulled September 30th at our
Get it
charity
while
golf
you still
tournament.
can.
Yes, get it. And with that in mind, why don't we take another quick look at this Durabali Van Forest game, because this is the key game for the day.
Yes,
It is
indeed.
all riding on this position, whether or not Ray Robson will be named the Fall Chess Classic Group A champion, or if he still has some work to do tomorrow.
So remember what I said when I looked at the players. Note Jordan Forrest's gestures. Where is his hand at?
He does not seem happy, if I'm
Let's
honest
take
with
a
you.
look at the players.
Yes. So we see Jordan not even bothering to hold his head up on his own.
Yes.
He needs the help from his hands.
He did have his hands on his neck, but clearly both players are kind of awaiting for the other person's signal.
Yeah, waiting for the action to really break out.
Yes.
At some point, we expect Black to really make a decision here. At the moment, he's kind of shuffling around, kind of not showing
Yes.
his hand. But eventually, he is going to have to give up something on the king side or the queen side in order
As
to
far as
make
I
any progress.
understand from that look on Jordan, this looks like the sign that I'm still trying, but at heart I gave up.
Right. And meanwhile, Vasif actually seems a little bit more relaxed. He's just moving his pieces back and forth.
Yes.
He knows that whatever will happen will happen. He simply has to wait for Jordan to make the call.
Yes. But as far as I can see, Jordan is still trying to make some progress, even though it's very hard to do so. But it's never too late to pull out a miracle.
Yeah, well, we're going to be staying here, covering this game, covering the other games, until it is decided whether or not Jordan can do this, can win this game.
Talking about some other exciting endgames, let's go back to Ilya Smirin's games against
course.
Ipatov. Some moves has been played, and we kind of left off at rook g4.
Yeah,
rook
somewhere around
d6,
here,
rook-
Black
yes.
captured this pawn on
So
c6.
why decided to take on c6?
Interesting.
Takes-
Well, this was not the line that we expected, because
Yes.
it seemed as though the Black King was going to maneuver his way into some very active
Yes.
territory.
In fact, Ipatov had the same issues, therefore he maneuvered the rook to c8 to stop that very idea.
Interesting.
Rook f8, king d5, and a rook e6, just defending this pawn. I have a feeling that Black, I'm not even sure what he's trying to do. Maybe rook c6 and king c4.
Yeah, that would make sense. Also, something that would make sense to me is if he somehow managed to get this king to f5 and trying to take this g pawn away.
Yes,
would be another
that
thing.
would make a lot of sense. Only issue I would see there is you go king e5, let's say I pass.
Right, for the
I might
moment,
check
it's,
you.
it's unavailable due to this check. But I was
Yeah.
trying to make something work. Say you do play king d2, and I
Yeah.
play something like rook d6 there. And the point is, if you ever play this rook c5 check, I was hoping I could play something along the lines of rook d5. And yet, now king f5, and you might take my a pawn and get a powerful passed a pawn for yourself, but I will now have connected passers on the king's side.
That's true, but you do need to be super careful with my pawn, as
course.
it is further than any of your pawns.
Okay. I like it. I like it for black, though.
Okay.
So king takes g5 here. Is this a winning endgame?
In fact, this turns out to be very good for white, as I'm
Okay.
going to win the b pawn.
So you also get connected passers for
Yes.
yourself, and then I guess black is going to find
Yes.
himself in quite a bit of trouble.
So let's go back to this position. And let's try to make a better move than king d2. So rook e6. Okay, I'll give a check.
Yeah, I must come
Let's
back.
go back. So if you ever go here, I go rook a8.
Right.
So it's not quite as clear how Smirin will make progress.
Yeah, I don't really see the point in black's play thus far.
Rook e6 I wasn't happy about much.
Yeah, honestly, in that position we just saw, I wanted to play rook e7 for black.
Yeah.
But, yeah, then of course there's this problem of rook a8 to really look out for.
Yeah, so this rook is super active. Also, probably this rook c8 maneuver was nice by Ipatov, as this king would take a lot of time taking that pawn, and if this pawn drops, white gets real counterplay.
Definitely.
Actually, there was a move played by Elias Mirin. He went rook e6, check, king d6, and now Ipato went back. And again, the same deal.
Maybe king d7 is required from black, hitting this rook on c8.
Then again, I can do what we hated the first time, that white can actually start harassing this pawn.
Right. Interesting. And if rook e7, there's rook a8, and all of a sudden your rook is just switching sides of the board effortlessly, causing
You
a lot
are
of
defending,
problems.
but you're not winning.
Right.
So king d7, or maybe let's say rook e5, giving up this pawn, but dreaming of the same scenarios of walking up.
Yeah, it just seems worse though. White wouldn't black have played rook e5 while his king was on d5 rather than now when his king's on d6.
That would be nicer. Yeah.
Just doesn't make as much sense to me.
I really want to go here.
Yeah, rook a8 takes, king d5.
And with the king being so active, and
This is definitely far superior than the line we saw with the king on g5.
This is something that I would like with black.
Right.
Even if you're not winning, there's a fair chance. And in fact, that's what Smirin does.
Yeah, but honestly, this has to just be a worse variation than playing rook e5 immediately instead of this rook e6 move.
Probably.
So maybe a missed chance there from Elias Mirin.
Yeah, but there's still some chances here, and it's not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if this will end in a draw. I think Elias Mirin will push this, and will have real chances of winning this.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in the Jordan Van Forest game, nothing spectacular happened yet. Just lots of bishop maneuvering as Jordan Van Forest is looking around.
Yes. Looking for a sign maybe that something
Yes.
can show him the way to win this very difficult bishop endgame.
But not much has changed. He did exchange a pair of pawns on g4, bishop c3, say king e6, bishop d2. Let's make a run for it. Takes a5. Let's say what happens if bishop e7.
Yeah, you have to play king c4. And at the end of the day,
And
you are forced
draw.
to eventually sacrifice your bishop for this g-pawn. And
Draw.
there is just nothing doing here.
yeah. So objectively a drawn position. Forrest can still try to come up with some neat little tricks, but is there anything substantial there? I doubt it.
Well, why don't we take a look at this Aveta Gregorian versus Amon Hambleton game? Some changes have been made to this position since the last time we looked.
Yes.
Notably, a set of rooks is off the board, and the white king has advanced all the way up the board to h5. And there we see actually both players seem to be under quite a bit of stress trying to figure this one out.
So let's see, rook a7 was played, a pair of rooks was just exchanged, takes, queen a4, just putting pressure on that rook. Rook e7, king f2, and the king march.
I like what white
king.
has done here. There's no need to rush anything at all. Just get your king to the best possible square, get your queen to the best possible square before making your breakthrough, your move.
Yeah. King g4, knight f8. So this is why we talk about the famous game, short Timon, because you never know when you actually capitalize on the fact that you knew about this idea.
Right, and once again, it makes a lot more sense in endgames like these than in most middle game positions, like where we saw it in that of course, classic game.
But some patterns are more than useful.
Yeah, of course. So here, you have to imagine the way that white is eventually going to break through is with a push of a pawn. Perhaps this e4 to e5 breakthrough is the way that white is looking to really shake loose the black king, create some serious threats.
So it's not, notice that there's no, I don't think there's knight g6 because of f5.
Yeah, that would cause some problems, but f5 there's rook
maybe
e5.
There's rook e5 actually.
Yeah, rook e5 and
go,
knight
then
e7.
repeat. But again now the e5 break works.
Oh.
Because here I take, and there's no more e5 square,
Yes.
and now everything falls apart.
Yeah, this e5, and then not really wanting to recapture on e5, but simply play f5 to, take
Yes.
away the necessary squares from black's
In
pieces.
fact, Amand did play knight g6, hoping maybe this would actually happen, and then, so if black actually gets this structures, there is some hope of holding.
No,
This
well,
might
yeah, I mean,
actually
this-
just be a draw.
This looks like a very, very basic fortress, actually.
Yes.
But
Also, don't
this
show
is-
this to Mr. Magnus Carlsen, because he wouldn't like to hear the end result of this game.
Of course not. But that's a bit of a dream world for black. I don't
Yes.
think that's what's going to happen.
But
here
in
the
fact,
game.
in this position, Mr. Magnus Carlsen is correct, as e5 is coming, and f5, and this is a win. So there
And-
is indeed no fortresses.
In addition to that, white doesn't even need to play e5 here. E5 might be the easiest way to win the game, but if white sees something he doesn't like, if he sees some ghost that he doesn't like, you can just play a simple move and keep the game going, keep his chances alive. So, what else is going on? I think some more changes have happened in that other game between Manuel Petrosian and Viktor Mihalevsky. It looks there as well. A set of rooks has been traded off.
The set of rooks has been traded off, and did that change a lot? No. It's
Okay.
still a deadlock. So let's move into the Kodrich game, where Kodrich messed up.
Oh no!
Oh, actually, he didn't.
Okay.
Just for a second, thought he did. He actually didn't go for queen c3, just played queen d3,
Oh,
but has
with
exactly the same
idea.
effect.
Yes. Just aiming at these light squares, aiming at f3,
And
aiming at
let's,
h3 in some
if
lines.
we've perused the players and how they take the stress of chess, let's have a close-up on these players as well.
Yeah, you see Jack Strombuliak really under a lot of pressure here. He's down to just 2 minutes on his clock, and this is after the time control. So there's no extra time coming Jack's way, and he is looking to be unable to solve his many, many problems in this position.
Also look at these two great sportsmen, as both has poker face on.
Poker faces. Okay.
They
And,
don't seem to be too concerned about the position. Obviously they are, but they are not showing any signs of regret.
Yes, we do see a couple moves played there actually. White going for
Yes.
a7 and black going for rook a2. Just keeping an eye on this pawn and really just taking away white's threats here.
And in fact, this is the only moment you can see Jack Stambuliak resigning himself to his fate.
Yeah, I think we should just stay here. It looks as though checkmate is imminent.
Yes, as queen f3 is coming.
Queen f3, and now with the rook over on the a file, after king f1, there is simply rook a1 with an immediate checkmate. Nothing really left for Jack to do, but take these last couple minutes, maybe start to cope with the fact that this
Meanwhile-
game slipped away.
Yes. So
Big
we have
news,
a big news.
in the A group. Our key matchup for the day, the only one that matters for the first place standing, has been decided. Jordan von Forest has drawn his game against Vasif Durabaili. And with this huge momentous result, Ray Robson is officially going to be the Group A champion in the Fall Chess
Congratulations.
Classic. Congratulations to Ray. $6,000 grand prize, as well as the honor, the bragging rights of 2019 Fall Chess Classic champion. And really, it's been an outstanding tournament from
Yes.
Ray.
I mean, well deserved. Winning 5 games in the middle of the tournament is a rare feat that you can hardly achieve. And only the best of the best can do that.
Yeah, it took him a couple rounds to settle in, but once he did, he played some astoundingly accurate chess. He deserved pretty much all of those 5 wins. He just played better than his opponents throughout this event.
And in fact, in some of the games, he was relentless, as we saw the position that he had against Var Akobian, but it all seemed to close down the position and very, very hard to crack. But in the end, Ray found a way to break through with g4 and managed to win that game as well, which was critical.
Well, congratulations to Ray. Congratulations to Jordan as well, who has also played a very excellent tournament. Really tried his best to make something of this game, but with the opposite color bishops,
Yes.
it was just impossible.
It was a well-played game by both Durar Bailey and Fun Forest.
Yeah,
Not
definitely.
without mistakes, but at a high-stake game, it's normal to have some ups and downs happening.
Well, with this result, why don't we take a look at all of the results in Group A
Right,
today
let's
and see
do
where
that.
where we stand. Alexander Lenderman is still fighting it out against Daro Swiertz. That game we do expect to be a draw. Alexander Bortnik has lost to Vara Kobian, who came in to explain his
Yes.
very nice win in the French defense.
In the French.
Alex Ipatov is defending against Ilya Smirin, and it looks as though maybe some missed chances in that game. It'll be interesting to see what that result turns out to be. Ray Robson had an early draw today against Hrant Melkumian, and then Vasif Durabaili has drawn his game against Jordan Van Forest, spoiling his chances at catching Ray Robson in the final round, making Ray Robson our Group A tournament champion. And over in the B group, Aram Hakobian, I believe, has won his game against Steven Zerk. I'm sorry. These
that game was Steven Zerk playing
Alexander Fear.
Alexander
so
Fear.
actually, a little bit of a mix-up there. So Fear has won his game against Steven Zerk today, and I believe those were the round 7
Yes,
results
those were
rather
round
than
7
round
ones,
8.
yes.
So give us just a moment to pull those up here. Of course, Alexander Fear played a very nice game
Yeah,
today.
very nice
It seems to
game.
be he's found his form in this tournament.
Yes.
If he had found this type of form, this type of chess that he's playing just a few rounds earlier, maybe we'd be talking about him
Yes.
playing for the championship.
He did play the game of the day today, playing some very original chess. And that's not really surprising from a player who plays the King's Gambit.
Right. Well, I do want to remind you guys, tomorrow, due to the opportunity for playoffs, the rounds will be starting a couple hours early. The round itself starts at 11 a.m. if you want to get up and follow along for yourself on uschesschamps.com. And our show will be coming to you live at 1:30 p.m. That is 1:30 p.m. to join us for coverage of the final rounds. Maybe we can pull up those round 8 results, or
And
at least the round 8
as
pairings,
well,
and
the
we can
B
take
groups
a look for the
results,
B
I
group's
think, yeah.
results. And actually, many important things have happened in these past couple minutes here. In the B group, Steven Zerk has lost to Alexander Fear. Alexander Fear, once again, finding his form in this tournament. Aveta Gregorian is up a queen and a pawn for a rook and a knight against Aman Hambleton,
And-
looking to be like he can break through that fortress for Aman. Manuel Petrosian has officially now drawn his game against Viktor
And Jack
Mihalevsky.
Stambuliak went down to Dennis Kedrich.
Yes, Dennis Kadrich playing the spoiler in this Group B, spoiling most of Jack's chances at winning this championship. Jack, of course, can still catch up to Yasser tomorrow with a good win in the final rounds. And Aram Hakobian has drawn his game with Yasser Quesada Perez. Aram moves to 5 out of 8, also just a half point out of the lead going into this final round. So it's shaping up like it's going to be an exciting day of action tomorrow, Denish. What do you expect from this B group? Which of these 3 players do you think has been the most
Definitely,
impressive?
let's take a look at the pairings for 9, or at least the results for this round. I mean, the standings.
The standings. I'm not sure if we
don't actually.
we don't have those ready
Okay.
to bring up.
Yeah.
I can just read them off here
Yes,
for you.
that'd be great.
So Yasser Quesada Perez in the B group is currently the B group leader with 5.5 out of 8. Chasing him are 2 players, Jack Stambuliak and Aram Hakobian, both on 5 out of 8. And then not mathematically eliminated are both Manuel Petrosian and Dennis Kadrich, both on +1, 4.5 out of 8. But they would need Yasser Quesada to lose his game tomorrow for them to even have a chance at a playoff.
In fact, Yasser Quesada will be white, so if he wants to make sure that he wins the tournament,
Yes.
he must go all out for the win.
Yeah, with a draw, he would secure his spot in a playoff,
Yes.
but definitely nothing is guaranteed if you go to rapid tie breaks.
Yes, so I would be expecting tie breaks.
Yeah, it's shaping up like there's a very good chance of that actually occurring.
With
Of course,
so many players playing so well, I see there's a big chance of even a more Is even a three-way tiebreak.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. Of course, we will be joining you tomorrow, like I said, starting at 1:30 p.m., 2 hours earlier than our start time for the rest of this event. And we will be sticking around until everything is decided, until the conclusion of this B group has been decided. Be sure to join us once again tomorrow live at 1:30 p.m. With that in mind, thank you all very much for joining us here today for our coverage of the 2019 Fall Chess Classic. And make sure to join us tomorrow for the final round. Who will be the champion in the B group? Will it be Yasser Perez? Will it be Aram Hakobian? Will it be Jack Stambuliak? Will it be one of the further away chasers? Nobody knows. You will have to join us tomorrow for our final round of the 2019 Fall Chess Classic.
For that, be there.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.